Welcome to IST Presents. I'm Chippy Buenafe. Clearly, the current coronavirus crisis impacts a lot of areas in our everyday life. Would it be possible to have a technological approach to such a health crisis? Our guest today shares one such possible response. Israel Brizuela is the current CEO and CRO of ePrivacyNow, and he is also the Data Privacy Officer of the National Association for Data Protection Officers of the Philippines, or NADPOP. ePrivacyNow operates in Hong Kong, Philippines, and Singapore as the first legal technology company in the region that deals with business continuity, data privacy, and data security. Israel has 27 years of experience in IT, compliance, security, privacy, and audit. Prior to establishing ePrivacyNow, he was the head of IT for Sunlife Financials for Hong Kong and Indonesia. Israel, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Chippy. Good morning, and also good morning to all of the viewers of UNP.
Okay, well, maybe let's start off by perhaps giving us a short description of the current initiative that you're involved with. There's this particular initiative known as Clear, and it's supposed to be a
Yes.
solution that's supposed to help in our coronavirus crisis right now. So maybe can you give us a short description of what Clear is about and what it does?
Okay. Clear stand. First of all, I think let's define clear. So clear stands for Citizens Logistics and Early Assessment Reporting Tool. Uh, this is a contact tracing app to combat COVID-19 using analytics. So basically, it's more of what Singapore and South Korea is also doing, same as like that. It's a contact tracing app that would complement the mass testing uh, for coronavirus.
Okay, and
Okay,
how's it been so far? I mean, has many
okay.
people
Uh,
gotten into the platform already, or yeah?
so this platform, there's about 7 municipalities right now that has been onboarded. Uh, Mainly Naga, Butuan City, Zamboanga City, Legazpi, who else? Legazpi, Maasin, Bago City.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
those municipalities. So uh, Clear was actually an initiative of two companies, CMI Tech, which is a software company based here in Manila, and the other one is Spring Valley. Spring Valley is our Silicon Valley counterpart in the Philippines. That's based in Roa City. This is being headed by Jonathan Villasoriaga, which is also the president of PSIA, Philippine Software Association of the Philippines.
Okay.
So Clear is a platform, software platform that enables users to contribute information regarding their state of health, uh, so that government or local government units can have that access also. So basically, the goal is to keep ourselves and our community be informed of possible COVID-19 infections and provide healthcare authorities with a tool to trace and the spread of infection in order to contain outbreak.
Okay.
So just to give a few background of the functionalities of Clear, uh, this is basically a large database of the local government unit. Uh, so it provides records for testing, identifies, for example, red zone. Because in terms of analytics, this is, for example, what's being the two main types of analytics would be the nodes would be the people, the PUI, PUM positives, plus also the places we're in that, for example, that specific person what has been spotted. So like that. So it's a crowdsourced information gathering people. There's a crowd. This is a crowdsourced information gathering platform also, and se- this is a secured, scalable backend infrastructure.
So when you've participated in Clear and we got all the experts together to come up with a technological solution to this problem.
Mhm.
Can you give us maybe a quick rundown on what are the challenges that one may face when trying to address a crisis like the present coronavirus health crisis using technology?
Okay. First of all, I think there are three basic challenges, uh, three or maybe two. So first would be cost, right? So we know technology is not really cheap, and product development entails mind power, diba?
Mhm.
So the team was fortunate enough to have the support of the industry players because of Jonathan is the president of Philippine Software of PSIA. So we're fortunate enough to have some support coming from PLDT, Smart, Globe, the two telcos, Huawei Cloud, AWS, Amazon Cloud also. So this happened on the first week of the lockdown
Okay.
in last March. So the build, the code build was just about 2 weeks. So the team did their code and deployed that on the cloud. So the first one who answered the the ask was Huawei Cloud actually, and then supported by then we presented this to the board of Philippine Software, and then PLDT came in, and then Globe came in, and so on. So the all of this is an actual this is a free app for the LGUs. So this is being shouldered by the different industry players in the private sector. But eventually, will the team will be donating this to the ICT and to the UST. Actually, we've got some endorsement already for the IATF to use this specifically for UST. So another one would be, I think, the rollout in terms of the rollout of such technology because as I mentioned earlier, we'll be donating this to the government. We really don't want to have uh, uh, any touch on the data. So that's why we've done extra measures in terms of privacy and security also. So this this application uses multi-factor authentication, OTP, and so on. So and then we created actually uh, some documentation. Even uh, DIC DICT is actually doing some penetration testing right now, plus other stuff also. So uh, I think another issue would be the acceptance of this app. In terms of there would some people would say this would be there would be some privacy issues because it's like a there's a thin line between a surveillance app and and
Okay.
and yeah. Mhm. So it's like that. So this has been patterned in Singapore actually. The Singapore government, specifically for NUS, National University of Singapore, donated their code base. So that's why the analytics is using a technology called Neo4j in terms of the analytics. So you put, for example, people plus also places in terms of your nodes. So we can easily pinpoint, for example, if someone visited, for example, a building, for example.
Mhm.
So that building would be registered on the app also. So within the vicinity, so the application basically uses GPS and Bluetooth. In Singapore, they're just using GPS, but in the Philippines, we need to have that Bluetooth capability because, as I've mentioned earlier, uh, even though, for example, we have about penetration of number two or number three in social media, internet penetration is not like it's not really that good. So the statistics, even for example, for Globe and for Smart, 90% still are using prepaid. So it's not really postpaid. So everyone's using mobile internet, but of course it's limited. So that's the reason why. So I think that's the main issue. But it's the phones are basically the reason why we got Globe and Smart. It's whitelisted on their telcos, plus also NTC. So that's it's this is we've done more security measures in terms of the application.
Okay. So essentially, the challenges that you've shared with us right now, I mean, you can probably break it down into the buy-in of all the stakeholders, as well as having the appropriate approach to actually implement and roll out the solution. You've mentioned
Yeah,
having to
correct.
collaborate with the local government units. How difficult was it, considering that there's always this tension between public sector and private sector? How did that work this time
Yeah,
around with
sure.
you?
So actually, at first we wanted to get endorsement coming from uh, the IATF first on the national government, but IATF was not really keen on endorsing anyone.
Mm,
There are some app, for example, there are some app also in the market that right now in the Philippines that are saying that they have been endorsed actually, but no one is being endorsed by ITF at the moment. So, uh, so what we did, because typically they would say, who are using that app right now? So we wanted someone to be on that pilot first. So since Jonathan before was also the president of NICP, the National Association for ICT in the Philippines. So he has that network. So at first, Zamboanga came in, and then Butuan City came in.
mhm,
And since I'm from Bicol,
mm,
some of our friends coming from Naga also asked us. I asked them if we can, if Naga can become can be onboarded also as a pilot, so that we can now say the story for IATF and for other government agencies in national that this has been uh, we're- LGUs are now using this one.
mm.
So after the launch, actually last Sunday, not last Sunday, uh, the four municipalities came in: Iriga, Legazpi, and Butuan, and no, Maasin and Bago City.
Okay. And I think, well, one would notice that when you started to implement Clear, you sort of started out with areas or municipalities or cities outside of Metro Manila. Was this a deliberate approach, or
No,
was
not
this?
really. We wanted to have Metro Manila first, but
Yeah.
of course our natural contacts are outside of Metro Manila.
Okay. All right. So
So
it was more of
we
convenience in that
we've
sense.
done
Yeah.
actually we've done some we've asked some friends actually
Mm,
here in the for Metro Manila to help us out. For example, in Pasig, Manila, and Marikina. So The reason why we wanted to get the three municipalities, and if ever, for example, some of your network wants us can help us out on those three municipalities, specifically for Metro Manila, we would happy to have them. Uh, uh, the reason why we didn't get, for example, within Metro Manila, because I think uh, just contacts, just typically the contacts that we have. But we wanted to have those three in the platform because the head of the cities of those three municipal, for example, Mayor Marcy, Vico Soto, and Isco, are very what we what do we say? Are very progressive in terms of their in terms of mindset in helping the municipality.
Okay, okay. Well, maybe you may have noticed this, and some of the other experts have noticed this. But the current health crisis right now, this coronavirus crisis, somewhat
Mm.
unearthed what we could probably call as the digital divide. Some sort of a deepening of the gulf between those who are privileged and those who are not. In your opinion, what can we do now in order to bridge this divide?
Uh, that is actually that statement, GP, is very true, especially in the Philippines. As I just mentioned, statistics shows that uh, still we're still on 90% of our mobile penetration still 90% is prepaid and 10% is postpaid. So, and for this manifests that 90% are still on the poor to middle class, right? And then maybe the postpaid would be normally corporate still. But the digital divide is very eminent in the Philippines. Like, for example, in Singapore, they have all of those are all postpaid. So it's much more easier to implement a technology that would help, for example, this kind of pandemic or epidemic uh, in terms of how to push technology.
Mhm.
Uh, because, for example, here, the the basic features of Clear is actually divided into two. So one is the web, the other one is mobile. So basically, the web consolidates every relevant information of the user, their community, the whereabouts for government authorities to successfully carry out contact tracing. Because that's the after contact tracing, you have to have mass testing. That's the strategy that South Korea did, and the other one would be mobile. The component of the mobile is actually it acts out as a beacon and sensor that will automatically track vital information about the touch points and movements. For this before Apple and Google did the launch on the anonymized data. Remember that? I
Mhm.
think that's
Yes,
just
yes.
last week. Wherein a Google, a Samsung for a phone, or for example, an Apple phone can now communicate doing anonymized data. This is actually part of it. This is actually part of it. So if you're using Bluetooth, if the here in the Philippines, so we have to use the technologies that we have right now. So if the Bluetooth is on and then your GPS is on, it would automatically create an anonymized data, and then it
Mm.
would inform you if that person has COVID-19 or not. So you have some precautions also.
Mhm.
So that's why. So that's there would be some visibility also by local government units if uh, that person has because in the app you could now create, for example, you could input what's your symptoms, are you feeling there's a feature that says my daily commitment. The daily commitment is basically putting your med your symptoms for COVID-19.
Mm.
So that is actually part of it. And then actually there's some other features that tracks government aid and so on and those kind of things. So
Mm.
you would see your medical history also.
Mm.
So when the DOH would come in, and then for example, we're both in Pasig. If for example, you would say I have some symptoms, the barangay unit can now pick you up and put you, for example, in Medical City or in Tri City and so on. Uh, but they now have that information
Okay.
because the data is very important, especially for the analytics part.
Okay. Well, I know both of us have been involved in the advocacy for data privacy. Maybe can you share us a few thoughts about how this particular platform or app can actually help strengthen or safeguard privacy in such a crisis nowadays?
Uh, so when we created the privacy for this app, we made sure that there are, uh, for example, there are just four attributes that's being collected: name, address, phone number, and birthday. So the only sensitive data there in terms of the Data Privacy Act of 2012 is actually the birth date. So even for example, if you look on the view of that application, uh, the only the view would just transpose that birthday to an age, right?
Mm, that's right.
So for example, LGU and DUH can now see your data, but actually the default is actually masked. So not everyone can see that.
Mhm.
So that's one. So we also did some measures that we call it, for example, in security we call it RBAC, role based access control. So when there's a security control for everyone. If the user has, for example, admin privileges, if the user is a barangay official, and so on. Of course, the barangay official cannot see any of that data. It's always masked. So unless you have that privilege, uh, you have that's masked. So that's another one. The other one would be uh, uh, multi-factor authentication. So even for example, if a systems administrator would access the server, there would be we need to have an authenticator before accessing it. Plus, also the different APIs are being authenticated. So that's the level of security that we have. Plus, also as we know, we wanted to have secured encryption on the application also. So the one of the security features would be encryption of the data at rest. So on storage and on the database, so it's encrypted 256 AES plus also on transport. So it's more of there's an encryption in terms of your mobile app plus also uh, on the web app also. So
Mm.
those kind of things.
Okay,
Plus
great.
also we did our basic privacy impact assessment.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Israel, for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Thank you, GP. Have a good day.
Yeah. That's Israel Brizuela of ePrivacyNow. If you have any feedback about our show, please email us at ist@uap.asia. I'm Chippy Buenafe, and thanks for tuning in.